All right. Welcome to Cbus Mob. I'm super excited to have with me Kelley Boller of Boller and Petty Law Firm here in Columbus. Kelley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Allison, I'm super excited to be here. Anytime anybody will let me talk about domestic law or how much I want to save all the children in Franklin County, I'm there. So I am an attorney in Franklin County. I solely practice domestic relations and family law matters. In the past few years, I primarily just do guardian ad litem work representing abused children in court.
Okay. So will you break down what domestic law is? Because I think as lawyers, we know what it is, but like general public, like lawyer, like I don't really know what that means.
There's a lot of people who have a lot of descriptions for it because some people call it domestic law, some people call it divorce law, some people call it family law. At the end of the day, in Franklin County, they have domestic and juvenile all in one courthouse. Okay. Some counties split that up and some counties have probate juvenile. But I will tell you for Franklin County, what we consider domestic law, everybody considers domestic and juvenile. That includes divorces, dissolutions, annulments. It includes civil protection orders. It includes juvenile custody, which is for parents who've never been married and they have a custody dispute. It involves child support. It involves delinquency cases, which has been in the news a lot lately. And it involves abuse, neglect, dependency cases, as well as juvenile stalking orders and things like that.
So all of the super emotional stuff.
Exactly. I spend every single day of my life is spent around someone having the worst day of their life.
How did you get into that?
Okay, I'm going to say the words that have probably never been spoken in the history of the world, which is I have always wanted to be a divorce lawyer. When I was a little kid, when I was growing up, I have always wanted to be a divorce lawyer. There were a couple years when I wanted to be a poet, and my mom told me that you can't make money as a poet, and that
I don't think mom's wrong.
Correct. Except I don't think she realized my career trajectory with law, and if she would have known how much I was going to make working for legal aid and struggling to do my low bono work, she might have actually steered me towards poetry. But in general, I've always wanted to be a divorce lawyer. It absolutely stems from my parents' divorce. My parents got divorced when I was 6, and it was a very unusual divorce just because, it was in the 70s. My mom was one of those women who thought she was going to stay married forever. They got married in the early 60s, and she put my dad through law school. So she put my dad through law school. She was a teacher, and then he became a lawyer. She became a stay-at-home wife, and they were supposed to live happily ever after. He had a very successful law firm, did well for himself, knew how to plan ahead. And then they got divorced in 1976, and my life changed tremendously. And I think there's a lot of safeguards now that there weren't then. But when your father is a very important political man in town and gets divorced, the rules weren't necessarily the same. So I ended up going from living in one of the nice houses in the city and having a really nice life to moving to a different city. And we struggled to be able to even pay our bills. And I think the point that it really hit home for me was when I was in 3rd grade. My mom still wasn't able to get a job because there was a surplus of teachers in the 70s. Because once again, I know you're way younger than I am, but back in the day, so many women were told they could be teachers or nurses.
That was the only thing they could be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the 70s, there were lots of teachers. And so she had a hard time getting a job.
My mom was one of those teachers, by the way.
So, no, yeah, all of my answer teachers, my grandmother was a teacher. My grandfather was a school superintendent. Teaching and education is in my blood. And she couldn't get a job, didn't have insurance, had to have emergency surgery, and almost died, was in the hospital. And I remember we were alone. My sisters and I were alone for a while as she was in the hospital. And when she got out of the hospital, we did what all good, hardworking, middle-class people do. She wanted to pay her bills. And so I remember walking with her to the pawn shop for her to pawn all of her jewelry, to be able to pay the surgeon and to pay the hospital.
That would leave an impression.
It did leave an impression. And at the same time, I remember calling up my dad because I was like, he's got to be able to help us. He's got to be able to help us. And he wasn't there because he, of course, owned his own plane, as one does. He owned his own plane and he happened to fly to the Bahamas for that week. And so he was off enjoying life in the Bahamas. And I was going with my mom to pawn her jewelry. And I just remember thinking, this is so amazingly unfair. And around the same time, I remember we had our water show off, and at least in Cincinnati, when they shut off your water, they spray painted around the water in your front yard. So it was like the scarlet letter.
So you didn't have like the character debt collection practice in that in effect then, which was like you can't publicly shame people.
Yeah, it was pretty horrible. And but my mom was amazing and she made the best of it. And I think that it's one of those things that when you look at it in retrospect, it made me so much better of a person. And I'm somebody who doesn't care about money. I just care about giving back and I want to help people. So just from an early age, I wanted to be a divorce lawyer and I wanted to make sure things would be fair for people.
Okay, this makes a lot more sense why you wanted to be a divorce lawyer. You're like, I found divorce lawyer Barbie and was like enthralled. There's a lot of personal connection to it. And if you're like me, you always want to be Ken, and there was never fun Kens except with a lot of the movable hair.
I collected Evil Knievel and G.I. Joe.
Okay, so yeah, since we love Barbie, so I was always Ken or Skipper, or not Skipper. The Ken. No, it was the boy version. Was that Ken? It was Ken's little brother. No,
they might not have had it when I was.
I think his name was Skipper. Yeah. Anyhow, but you have exciting news. Not only are you a lawyer, but you're running for judge.
I am.
So Franklin County domestic judge is the seat you're running for.
I am.
So tell me, tell our listeners, why did you decide to say, like, you know what, I love being a lawyer, but now I want to be a judge? Like, what was the tipping point where you're like, I'm going to do this?
I've had quite a few changes in careers in my life that have led me to where I really believe I should be, which is here. I absolutely love what I do. I love it. I love wearing a white hat. I love representing kids in court in general, just because you know that they're the good guy. You're always on the side of right when you represent children and you do guardian ad litem work. I think the thing that made me want to switch, because I do just love what I do. The thing that made me want to switch is I also bizarrely have an MBA, and I've also studied a lot of criminal justice because I've done all the coursework for PhD in criminal justice.
Oh, yes. We've talked about this. You love school.
I did love school. Once again, education in my blood. After I did all the coursework for my PhD and I got a job working for Hamilton County Juvenile Court, and I was debating whether or not to finish the dissertation and finish everything, my mom sat me down and said, I know I told you education was important, but you're allowed to stop now. You're allowed to take a breath and not work full time and go to school full time. You're allowed to not finish. And that was such a gift from her, that because it's one of the only things on my resume that's unfinished. And I still have a twinge about it, but my mom gave me permission to stop school. But I have all of these things, and it's expertise that very few people have. Most people who are as much of a bleeding heart as I am have their MSW. They don't have their MBA.
MSW, Master's of Social Work?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I know the letters together.
Like when I worked at Legal Aid, there were lots of attorneys who had their JD MSW because they were social work. They're very into helping people. I just happened to accidentally get my MBA, as one does. One accidentally gets an MBA.
Yeah, it's totally what I do. Like, I just, accidentally got that. No, it's always been on my radar, but I'm always like, I don't know. I'm doing a pretty good job learning it by doing, or
yes.
I get the degree. So
you 100% have learned by doing, but I was working for LexisNexis for a few years, and they paid for me to get an MBA.
Oh, free MBA, do it all day long.
100%. So I went and got my MBA, and so what happened between the MBA, the JD, the criminal justice work, running for judge is just a natural, I think, culmination of all of that, because it allows me to actually put to work everything I've learned in law, everything I've learned in business, because as a judge, you have people who work for you. You have systems that you put into place. You have procedures you're allowed to do. I'm extremely good at setting up procedures.
Or really good local rules, like judges' rules. I love when they're like completely different from like everything else in the county. We have the one judge who's just like, yeah, I hear that, but I'm going to do it this way.
Yes. No, it's so funny you should say that, because I remember when they went through one of the iterations of changing our domestic and juvenile rules, and they left out a section of the discovery. And so you're allowed to do it for domestic, but you can't do it in juvenile unless you go and ask permission. And it's literally just because they forgot. And then they never want to put it back in. And so everybody's like, oh, it's juvenile. We need to go and ask permission. And then you go up to the magistrate and they're like, you have permission. Everybody knows that when they redid the rules, they forgot like 2 words. But no, I'm really, really good at figuring out how to help people and put the process in place that we can help with lots of people. And so far, I've been helping kids one at a time. And I think as soon as I become judge, I can help them by the thousands.
I love how you just said that, just like throw it out, like when I become judge. I love manifesting what you want. I don't know what's happened in my life in the last year and a half, but I've become a big fan of like crystals and manifesting intentions and new moons and solar flares. And, so keep manifesting it. And if you want to hear about solar flares, talk to me sometime. So, okay, you officially kick off your campaign season today, which is, yes, this won't get released today, but today is November 20th. So
Correct.
That is when you kick it off. And then you have a bunch of interesting fundraisers that most people don't have. Most people are like, hi, meet me at a bar and give me money.
Hey, I'm not above saying,
No, but I mean,
that might be a different career too, though.
I feel like as a lawyer, we get invited to a lot of different campaign events, especially for judges, and it's usually at like 2 to 4 different bar restaurants, and there's not much to it. It's just like come talk and make sure you write a big check. You've taken a different approach, which I appreciate, because I, for one, am trying to drink less, so I like having something that isn't drink focused, and I think that's a trend we're also seeing.
Agreed. Well, I will tell you, I had a very, very smart friend tell me that if I want to get people interested, do interesting things, right?
It makes sense.
Right. And at the end of the day, I'll be the first person to admit it. Very few people know or care about judges. You don't know or care about a judge until you need to be in front of them, and suddenly it's the most important thing in your life.
Before you practice in front of them and you have to be like, please don't hate me.
Correct.
Correct.
It's correct. And I will tell you, I am guilty of this too. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a bleeding heart Democrat. Got it. I'm the person who goes and takes the slate card and says, okay, the Democrats have already done the work for me. I'm just going to go vote for these people. I joke when people are like, oh, could you help me with the speeding ticket? I'm like, I don't even know where Muni Court is.
It's attached to the domestic court. I promise you, one's the front half, the other's the back half. But
it is correct. It is actually attached. And even the Common Pleas General Division is only a stairway away from us.
It's a tunnel away. There's a tunnel. Yes.
There's a tunnel.
I'm one of the few attorneys, I think, that's been in all those courthouses. The only time I've been in the juvenile was when I first started out. An attorney sent me there to deal with I was a client's kid who got in trouble for destroying a park after curfew or something. And so I had to be in juvenile court. And I was like, please don't bring me back here. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's how I felt when, back in my legal aid days, even though I was a family law attorney and 95% of my cases were family law, every once in a while they would go through periods where they'd be like, we think that we should all branch out and everybody should do 2 things instead of 1. And one day they're like, oh, go enjoy doing a foreclosure. And I'm like, where's the building? Where's the building? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and back then too, that was not where our courthouse is right now because they've done some construction.
They had just opened. Oh. I think that's when they just opened it. But I love legal aid so much. I support legal aid in my heart, and I will always be a legal aid person in my heart. But I still have panic attacks thinking about when I had never done any domestic or juvenile law in practice. And I came here, moved to Columbus, got this job, and I took over for another attorney. So I had a full caseload, and literally they handed me cases and said, go to the courthouse. And I said, where is the courthouse? Where is the courthouse?
We do love a trial by fire. Yes, attorneys are just like, hi, welcome to the firm. Go. Well, what do you think? You said your policies and procedures is what you're going to take from owning your business to the courthouse, but do you think there's anything else that you would find relevant? Because when I think about judges, I often see like prosecutors and then run for judge. But you've run your own business, which I think is unique. I don't see a lot of law firm partners running for specifically judgeship. We see them run for political office in other ways, but not necessarily for a judge. And I think that's unique and brings a perspective that is different than the bench has right now.
It is. It's unusual. I mean, I will tell you, one of the very first people I called and said, I want to run for judge, the first thing he said was, why would you want to take that kind of pay cut? That's the first thing he said. Why would you want to take that pay cut? Why would you want to do that? And I think people who aren't in the legal field look at judges and we see them in TVs and movies and we think they're super important. But other lawyers, we're around the judges. I remember when all the judges weren't judges and we see them.
Don't you think that's a weird transition when you used to be classmates with them and now you have to go in front and say your honor and you're like, I remember you at 20, whatever.
Right.
You know, you were never in a black robe unless I guess it was Halloween, right? But like, it's always interesting.
Right. Well, you're getting old. Like, you're getting old when. And what I will say is I of course, measure myself in domestic relations and juvenile terms. And the only judge, when I moved to Columbus and started doing domestic and juvenile full time in Columbus, there's only one judge still on the bench that was there when I started. So all the other judges are new.
But don't you think that's a good thing that like the judiciary gets a little bit of changeover? You get new people, new perspectives on the court.
It can be. I mean, it's okay. But in general, yes, I think it's a great thing.
All right. Well, okay. We don't want to spend the whole time talking about judge. Let's talk a little bit about your business because we're a Cbus mob. So you have a business partner.
Yes.
How long ago did you start your firm?
Okay. Started, I think Boller and Petty began, and you don't know this yet, Allison. You're going to figure it out soon. As you get older, it's harder to remember how long you've done things because it's just so long. I think that Boller and Petty has been around for about almost 15 years. We've been together and we've expanded and contracted and we've been through lots of different phases. Prior to that, I was a sole practitioner and I had my own firm. So
you were like meant to run businesses besides the MBA. You didn't want to work for other people, which is like, I don't want to.
No, it's very, very difficult. You know, even back when I worked at LexisNexis, I remember when one of the software engineers came up to me and he said straight to my face, how does it feel to be more qualified for your boss's job than the job you have? And I thought about it. And I was like, wow, he's actually kind of true with how things were lined up and the hierarchy there. But, you know, I have found it difficult to work for other people. I enjoy working for myself better. And I think that actually lends itself better to the judiciary.
Because you're used to being able to like run the ship, you know how to delegate, which I think is a huge thing. So you can get decisions out quickly.
Right. I think also hiring, firing, management of personnel is so amazingly important.
Oh yeah, that part of running your business. So fun.
Well, no, and that's funny. That's what my main focus in my criminal justice work was, because my goal in working in the criminal justice field was hiring, firing, maintaining personnel, and getting the best personnel in the right places. And so that's what I focused all of my studies on, is motivating personnel to get the best out. So I would love to be able to do that in the domestic relations and juvenile building.
What do you think for someone who started a business, running for office, whatever, that's thinking about this stuff? What's the best resource to be like, oh gosh, I can't even think about hiring and firing. I'm still just trying to get this off the ground. What would you say? Like, hey, this book, this podcast, just do it.
I think the best resource is, quite frankly, in my entire life forever, have been people who have been successful and they've done it and they've done it well and you want to emulate them, but also people who have been unsuccessful. And I like to talk about that
from their mistakes. Like,
absolutely. I have talked to some people who have not been successful in what it was that they wanted to do. And I think that I've gotten more out of my conversations with them than I have from the people who've been successful.
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense, right? They've made the mistakes and they can probably pinpoint, hey, this, like, I would have done this, this, and this differently. And so you can take that and say, okay, I want to learn from that.
Quite frankly, I think a lot of them don't know what the mistakes were.
Okay. All right.
Or else they would have fixed them and then they would have been successful.
Well, I mean, sometimes you make a mistake and it's enough to be business ending.
True.
We work with those businesses that, you know, they can't right the ship no matter how hard they try. And so that just happens. All right. Well, outside of, you know, running a business, getting multiple degrees and running for judge, what else gets you excited in the morning to get out of bed?
Goodness knows I have so many. I have more than one full-time job. Luckily, I've always been prepared for it. I've always worked full-time and gone to school full-time and tried to maintain a social life. So everybody who knows me knows that my passion is soccer. I love soccer a lot. I play soccer. I have all of the bruises and broken bones to show for it. So I still play. I think in goalie years, I'm dead because I've actually played a goalie for literally 50 years of my life.
Oh my gosh. Do you play the indoor soccer too?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I played last night. We won. So I love to play soccer. There have been years where I've decided to want to try to like to run and jog. I have actually completed like 11 or 12 half marathons. I've never liked it. I always hate it. It's always been a struggle. Yeah.
But in soccer, I guess you're goalie, so I guess that's
They come to me. I'm not stupid.
When I played soccer, you know, this is like 30 years ago, I also was like, please put me in goal because I don't want to run.
There you go.
Yeah. And
short sprints, that's what you do.
when I played softball, I played catcher because you got a courtesy runner. I just had to get to first base and then someone else did the rest of it for me.
See, great minds. So yeah, I love soccer. Anybody who knows me also knows I love my dogs. So I love hanging out with my dogs. I'm a very, very big into animals and loving animals, and usually I want to meet people's dogs more than I care about meeting them, you know, because dogs are amazing. But I love to travel. I'm a big theater geek, so I like to go to New York City. I like to go see plays, things like that. So I love to travel.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's great.
I think that's what most people like to do, right? Don't lots of people like to do that?
There are some, I had one of my dear friends from college. She married someone who doesn't like to travel. And I was like, they exist? Yeah, it's bizarre because she loves to travel. I think she just travels without him.
Yeah.
It's fine.
That's true. I do have a niece who doesn't like to leave home too.
Yeah, I think there are those people who don't like to travel. I'm not one of them. My wife and I usually are planning a trip. Anytime you talk to us, we probably have something in the works. Yeah. All right. But what kind of dogs do you have?
I have a Newfoundland.
Newfies are my favorite.
They're amazing. She's my third Newfie. And she's a Landseer, and she's really unusual because she is brown and white, and you almost never ever see gray and white Landseers.
My best friend from high school had Newfies, and when you drove up, he had a huge driveway, and when you drove up the driveway, they would just come greet you, but they're big dogs. And so you're always just like, crap, what's happening? But they were the sweetest. Oh, I miss those dogs. They were so sweet. It was just like a very warm welcome. So I assume, yeah.
And people do get scared of them because, you know, we don't judge weight in my household. But my girl is like about 140 pounds. And so she's big and she can be very scary looking. But with that being said, a lot of people don't know Newfoundlands were bred to save people. They're bred to save people in water.
To be the sweetest dogs on earth.
Right, and they're bred to pull carts. So they like to be on walks, and they're very mission-oriented on walks. But yeah, she's my third Newfoundland, and my last one was a black and white Landseer, and the one before that was the traditional black, which you see the most. He was black with little chest there. I have an honorary dog, which is my mom's Chihuahua Pomeranian mix, who I need to give him a shout out because he's my best friend. He's my best friend, and his name is Dr. Taco Nacho Bartholomew Boller Jr. Esquire III. So there you go.
Have you played Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza with them?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh my God, it's a card game. Occasionally there's like a Norwal, and so you have to like do a Norwal, and if you don't, you get all the cards, and you'll just laugh and have a great time. And so I feel like he
might beat me. He might beat me even without having opposable thumbs.
Because he has two of the names in his name. So
I love him. But anyway, yeah, so my household is just we love animals.
Well, since you have officially launched your campaign, I think I can ask you this. What's your platform, right? We've got to know you a little bit, but like, what's the one thing if voters were going to the polls today and saw you listed next to your competitor, what sets you apart?
My platform literally is just compassion. It's just compassion. People going to domestic relations and juvenile court are going through the worst time of their lives, and they want to be heard. That's what they want. And so often they come to court and they want to talk, and they aren't allowed to talk, and people won't listen. And and Tom Tyler, because once again, I am a nerd, Tom Tyler is a scholar who actually was at the forefront years ago of coming up with procedural justice. And as a lawyer, I think you're not going to know what I'm talking about, which is people are way more upset if they feel the procedure was unfair than they are about the outcome.
Oh, yeah.
They can get the outcome they want, but if they think the procedure was unfair, they're still upset and hurt. So you need to make sure, because I can even tell them as a lawyer, this procedure was fair. What just happened was fair. The outcome is fair. Everything is exactly how it is. But if they don't feel it was fair, they're upset for years or decades, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've had cases, I had one recently where we did the arguments on a motion in chambers. And so clients were there and they're like, what do you mean we don't get to see it? And I was like, that's what we're doing. We're doing it in chambers, which as a lawyer, I don't mind. Because I think it's a little bit more relaxed, a little less like formal and theatrical. But I understand from a client's perspective, like I'm paying this attorney money. I don't know what they're doing. Is there a record? Like, also, like, can I meet the judge who's deciding my case? Like that would be really nice if I could like see them and know that they're a human.
Right. And I will tell you, having practiced in domestic and juvenile, every single judge runs their courtroom differently. Every single judge. And there's one judge who's retired now who I personally loved, but he did almost everything in the back room.
In chambers.
In chambers. Yeah. Everything was in chambers. And he would go in and everything was clouded in mystery and secrecy. And your client just had to totally trust that this is what he said, fill in the blank. And it was just really hard. So what I care the most about in life in general when it comes to this work is procedural justice. So it's not even just that we know it's fair. They need to feel like it's fair.
That's huge.
Right.
That's huge. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time, future Judge Boller. If you would like to impart anything to our listeners who are thinking about starting a business or are thinking about running for office, what's the one piece of advice or one resource you would share with them?
I would just say, just do it. Because quite frankly, so many of these adventures I've started, like when I started my own solo practice, if I would have known how hard it was going to be, I wouldn't do it. I 100% wouldn't do it. If I would have known how hard running for judge was going to be, I wouldn't do it. So, you have to be courageous and trust me, I'm not courageous. I have just surrounded myself by amazing people who are courageous for me, and they love to shove me to the front and say, okay, you're going to do this. So
because they know you're good at your core.
I think that people who get to know me know I just want to help people and I just want to make their lives better. So I would say literally just do it. Don't overthink it, because I love to overthink everything. And I think that's actually held me back quite a bit in life. So
there's a philosophy that done is better than perfect.
Absolutely.
And it's because otherwise you overthink it and you never get it done.
Right. And there are so many things that I think I could have done very well in the world. I could have helped people if I just would have done it instead of overthought it. Yeah. So just do it. I mean, let's steal from Nike, right? Like, just do it.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. And in the show notes, we'll have information about Kelley's law firm as well as her judicial campaign. So if you want to find out more, go to the show notes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.